Hello, it's Amy with Just a Little Ink. I'm an independent demonstrator with Stampin' Up, and I'd love today to share with you a quick project using the Kindest Gnomes stamp set and coordinating die set, as well as the Tree Rings dies. They have a coordinating stamp set that's carrying over into January. So beyond our July to December mini catalog, which is where you'll find these. And I thought it would be a great project because it utilizes, again, not just this stamp set, but it's one that you can use as a ornament for your Christmas tree, or you could put to from on the back and use it as a cute gift tag. And I'm using some watercoloring and some other little techniques that I'm going to share with how you get the gnome to fit on what looks like a wood circle. So let's get going. All of the instructions follow along with my video, but I will post the measurements on my blog, justalittleink.com. You can order anytime from my Stampin' Up website, justalittlelink.stampinup.net. And I so appreciate those who are subscribing already to my YouTube channel, but I always appreciate more subscriptions. And I'll put that one away. I already have one colored. For those who like, share, and comment on this video, so appreciated. It helps to grow my audience. So what you're going to need, you're going to want 2 pieces. For some reason, I have 3 pieces. You don't need 3. You'll need a piece of soft sky cardstock, and I've cut this one. I'll just measure with my ruler, 4.5 by 6. Both soft suede as well as crumb cake. You'll also need a scrap piece of our Fluid 100 watercolor paper, as well as a scrap of our basic white cardstock. And I have cut this one using the smaller banner from our Stylish Shapes dies. And I know these have been very popular and may at the time not be available. They will eventually be available again if you cannot find them. So let me share with you some quick tips and tricks. The first one is we're going to go ahead and we're going to watercolor our gnome. And I thought I'd had one already on here, but I may not. So what I've done is I've taken the girl gnome. You could use any of them. And I'm going to use StazOn ink because StazOn is watercolor friendly. So it's not going to bleed the lines. So ink up your stamp using the StazOn. StazOn is best on red rubber ink, and then make a good impression. Nice and firm. Don't wobble when you ink. Just straight down, good pressure. And then lift up. Not too bad. We're going to go ahead and go with it so I can show you. I'm also going to use our water painters. And so I'm going to pull out, this is my smaller one, the smaller of the 3 options. So our water painters come in a pack of 3. We're going to go with the smaller tip one. You fill the insides with water. You could fill them with alcohol. Then there's a medium sized or a larger brush. And then there's one that's great for sweeping across great amounts of space. So I'm going to put the other 2 aside, but they all come in a package. And I'm going to watercolor using just our ink. So I've got pale petal pink for our skin flesh. So I'm going to pull it out, and I've squeezed the lid into the base, and it gives me a puddle of some ink, and then I'm going to pick it up with my water painter, like so. And I'm going to use that to then color in, squeeze this a little more water, then color her nose, and I want a little less. I'm going to get a lot more water going here. You want to get just a piece of paper towel. It kind of helps to blot any excess water. So I'm going to have her nose a little darker, a little more rosy perhaps than I am the rest of her skin. You could use any color of skin tone that you're looking for. And so I'm going to let that dry, and that's why we're doing this now. Also going to grab just a little bit because I'm going to have her not be wearing socks. I'm going to have her skin showing through. So do however you'd like. So then I can put that away. And I'm going to decide to put her hat using Pool Party. So again, I'm squeezing and cleaning that up. Squeeze water. Going in here. I'm not going to color all of this because, as you already noticed, I already did one. But I kind of want to show you quick how this all goes together. And you can keep coming back in. Our Fluid 100 paper is just a great option. It holds a lot of water. And if you go outside of the line, it's okay. Number one, because we're going to be using our dies, and so it'll cut off a good portion of that. But so you can keep adding more water if you want it a little darker. So I want a little more dimension between these. I'm going to come in here, grab a little more. So I've got my gnome's hat, and then I need some Poppy Parade. Again, you just clean it every time with your paper towel. So kind of come here. I'm going to leave a little bit of white on her ruffle there. And come in like so. And I'm going to make her wearing a dress. You could do however you wanted, but I'm going to have it all be the one color. And then having an apron on. Whoops, my apron got colored a little differently than I planned. You ever do that when you're not thinking? Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set that aside. We'll get over the edge of that one. I'm going to show you how I did her hair, and then we'll move on. So I'm going to take soft suede, and I kind of come in, and what I did is I came in darker here, darker here, darker here, just to kind of get a dimension with color. And I won't do all of it, just so you can kind of get a hint. And so as I go down, it lightens up because I've taken a lot of that color off. So then I can come in back at the top. Again, our Fluid 100 paper holds a lot of water, so you don't have to worry about whether or not you're overloading when you're watercoloring using the watercolor paper. So I would do the same on the other side. And then to show you that on her apron, I'm going to use crumb cake. We'll just, at this point, ignore that I've blurbered into there. It's going to end up being a little different color, which may mean I have to be creative in how I do this one. So let's set aside the watercolor. I did all of that so that I could let it dry, because when you're working on this project, you'll want to let it dry. Then you're going to open up the dies. You're going to take the coordinating die. You're going to line it up, run it through your Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And when you do, you're going to end up with one that I took a little longer to color. And I'm going to need, there's this one little itty bitty die. And that's to make a hole, not on my gnome, but on my tree ring. So I'm going to set this one aside. We'll fix it later. We'll have to get creative with how we fix it, but we'll fix it later. So what I want to do now is I want to take my 2 pieces of cardstock we talked about. We're going to kind of just scoot all of this up kind of out of the way. I'm going to pull up my Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And you do need the large machine for this. I'm going to open it up and pull out. You're going to need your number 1 plate, and you're going to need a number 4 plate, which you have to purchase separately. It will not come with your machine. And I'm going to pull out the tree ring dies. Whoops, and I've got to grab one thing. All right, I'd set this aside. You need the Stampin' Cut and Emboss folder, the Tree Rings Hybrid Embossing folder. It will come with the tree rings dies because it's in a combo. So you're going to open up your folder, and you'll note that there's room to then place the tree ring dies, get oriented in the correct place. It'll kind of sit in a groove that is on here. So I'm going to do the crumb cake first. I'm going to turn it over, put my plate number 4 on top, and I'm going to roll it through. You're going to end up with more of these than you're going to use for this one project, but you can keep a hold of them. So I'm going to keep this one and turn them up. Let's see here. Get all the others. This piece you'll just set aside. You can use it. I've seen some cute projects using that. So I'm going to then do it again. I'm going to line up again my, oh, I turn everything around. Line up my folder. Get it in the grooves. Okay. I'll do it again using soft suede. And I will share with you at the end a project I did where I only used the crumb cake if you want a simpler option and something that's a little faster. All right, so I've got one more thing to do after we're done here. So again, I'm going to pull all these out. We need this one. I'll set it aside. And I'll put my cutting plate somewhere else, so we're not going to use a cutting plate. So let's set aside the folder. Set aside that part of the die. What I need then, and I'm going to set aside my big Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine here. I'm going to pull out the small one. You would just use one machine. I just happen to not have my cutting plates accessible at the moment. So I'm going to pull out the smaller Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine. And I'm going to pull out this smaller die here. So, and I'm going to pull in this die. So you'll notice that you can layer it in. So you've got the inset piece of your tree ring. You'll leave a little overlap on the top plate. With your mini machine, you need to have a little bit of an overlap for ease of use going through. Before I put it away, so then I've got the inset. Set this aside. Then you'll note that this piece can come on the inside, like so. And I'm going to maybe turn it around. There we go, like so. So I'm going to set this aside for just a minute. I'm going to grab out my Tombow glue, my multi-purpose liquid glue. Put a little bit on the back side. so that they attach together. I just liked the contrast between the two. There are also dies that you can take and have the rings in the center, like the little crack in the center. We're covering that up. We don't need to use that. But I had told you wanted to keep this little piece from the dies for the gnomes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it here, and I want to make this part the top. So I'm going to come lay it on the center here. Again, have my little bit of an overlap, and we're going to run it through. Like so. Let it crack and creak. Okay, we'll set this machine out of the way. We'll set this out of the way. So then I have my tree ring ready to go. So I told you I had some tips. We need to work on our greeting. I had on here just Merry Christmas, but you'll note the stamp says Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. What I want to do is only ink up Merry Christmas, and so I'm going to use a technique called omitting. And I'm just going to use our Stampin' Write, our basic black Stampin' Write marker and the brush tip. So I'm going to come along the edge. Don't come from the tip. You will damage the tip if you go that direction. Drag it along the top edge. Give it a little breathing. Line it up on your tag. We'll see how well we do. Stamp down. Not horrible. And you can then get just Merry Christmas. But you'll notice if I try to put up right here, well, it covers up her hands, and I thought it'd be cute for her hands to be holding it. So what I did is I grabbed my paper snips. There's a little bit of a distance in between here, so come in, snip along the edge, and around just a little from her braid, and do the same thing on this other side. Come along here, grab where her hand is, come, and then tip it just a little around her braid, and you will get where she can hold the Merry Christmas. Then I had another challenge. So you'll notice what that challenge is. It covers up her feet. And so I don't want her feet to get covered up. So what you're going to do is you're going to come here, the base of her hands, and you're actually just going to cut it off. Don't worry. She will get that again. So you're going to come in, slide it underneath her hand so she's holding it. Center it between the two, and then we're going to run a little bit of glue here, hold it down, and I'm going to put a little line of glue lower so that I can have a space between her body and her hands. And it allows her feet to come through on the other side. Now, to get it attached, super simple. I'm going to take your trim. This trim, it comes gold and silver, and it's the Simply Elegant trim out of our annual catalog. I'm going to poke both of them in through. I'm going to pull it up. And if you're using it for a tag, this works really well. If you're going to use it for an ornament, then just loop it at the top. Pull up the top here, and then you can snip to even out your trim. So I've got this ready, and then with using some mini dimensionals on the back of my gnome, she's going to be ready to go onto my ornament or tag. And so just make sure you offset a little bit here. I like to put a little more than I need, but it just kind of helps hold the gnome up on the top of that tree ring. Get all those off. I think that's always the challenge, isn't it? Getting all the little backings off all our dimensionals. So then take your gnome and make sure she's going to hang straight. And you're going to line her up here. Like so. Well, maybe like so, because it's going to hang crooked if I do it differently. Push down. And voila, you have a cute tag or Christmas ornament. I mentioned that you could choose to do it just using crumb cake. And if you did, you would then just watercolor with soft suede along this outer ring, and it gives a similar look. So I thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed my quick little trick, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Please subscribe, like, share, and comment, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.